What's up, movie crew? Welcome to another list for the year. Alright, as mentioned in yesterday's video, today I will be talking about my 5 favorite horror films of 2022 that I saw in theaters. So I do want to mention, this does mean if it was on streaming service or if it was something that I didn't see in theaters but bought the Blu-ray or 4K later on, those are not on this list. I also want to mention, I am not including the Black Phone on this list. It's going to be on another list coming up, and there's a reason why I chose to put it on that one over this one. Before I get into anything, if you are new to this channel, my name is Luke, this is Let's Watch, and if you're into anything cinema and physical media related, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Alright, at number 5, we have The Menu. This one is one of the more recent horror films I saw in theaters, and it definitely subverted my expectations. I went in expecting one thing, and they gave us something pretty much completely different. And while this isn't your standard horror film, it's definitely more thriller, and it's got some dark humor in it, it was still an enjoyable movie, and it had some really good layers, a good cast, and I felt like even some of the people that only have a few lines here and there throughout the movie, they still were able to present themselves the way they need to be presented. And that's why I've got it on my list for one of my favorite films of 2022. At number 4. Now I gotta say, prior to rewatching these, this one was almost my number 3 for horror films of the year, but a quick rewatch, I've gotta say, 4 and 3 are both really good, but the other one edges it out just a bit. Number 4 is the new Scream movie. I felt like this was a very good follow-up. It definitely made up for Scream 4 not being all that great. It still had some of the comedic elements that are in the original movies. It has tributes to the original trilogy. And honestly, I personally think that Wes Craven would be proud of the movie that the directors made with this reboot, sequel, legacy movie. The reason that I had to give it number 4 instead of 3, though, I will mention with my number 3. At number 3, we've got Smile. Now, initially, this one was going to be number 4, but I did a quick rewatch of both of these movies, and this one edges out Scream because there was a couple of times where the intensity just got to me. And there was a few scenes where I know in the theaters I jumped, and I don't normally jump. And it felt like this movie, you could not relax at all. There was no crescendos, there was no build-ups. It was intense moment after intense moment, and the way the story was told, it made sense. And rewatching the movie, some of the scenes that I jumped at the first time, I still jumped when I saw them the second time. Sometimes when you watch a horror film, regardless of how much you love a certain movie, when you know certain scenes are happening, you might not have the same reaction the second or third time around. And with Smile, I still had the same reaction the second time around. At number 2, we've got a little bit of a cheat here, and that is with A24's X and Pearl. At the beginning of the year, Ty West released the slasher film X. And during the promotional press, he announced that him and lead star Mia Goth had already shot the prequel. Shortly thereafter, A24 announced the release date for Pearl, and during the promotional press, we find out that we're getting the third movie of the trilogy, Maxine, coming soon. The reason I had to put X and Pearl together, one, they're part of the same universe. Two, not that often you get two movies in the same entry outside of something like Marvel. But both of these movies are very different, but part of the same universe, and everything makes sense. With X, you've got something that is very reminiscent of 70s horror and slasher films. One of the things I mentioned in my review for X was that this movie was very much paying tribute to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is one of my personal favorite horror movies. With Pearl, you get what Ty West said was Wizard of Oz meets Psycho. And he nailed it when he said that. You've got this nice Technicolor movie, but at the same time, it's not Wizard of Oz. You get the origin story of a psychopath. And I gotta say, with what we got, I am very much looking forward to seeing what Ty West does with Maxine. Alright, my number one horror film that I saw in theaters this year, I gotta give it to Terrifier 2. I gotta be honest, All Hallows Eve, the first movie where we see Art the Clown, wasn't bad. It had a couple of scenes in there that were pretty good. But overall, it was okay. The original Terrifier had one or two really cool kills, but other than that, it wasn't a huge standout. And if you've seen some of my other review videos, I always complain about movies being too long. But I have to say, at 2.5 hours long, Terrifier 2 does everything it needs to do. You've got the setup for who is clearly going to end up being the final girl. You've got Art the Clown still doing some of his crazy, maniacal things. Some of them just being outright gross. Some of them being horrifying. Some of them even having some elements of dark humor to it. This movie meshed all sorts of subgenres of horror together into one movie, and it fits great. I am very excited to be able to add this movie to my collection once the physical release is out. And I am very much looking forward to seeing what director Damien Leone does with Terrifier 3, or he's even mentioned putting the final part of the movie into 2 parts, so we could end up with Terrifier 3 and 4. And I've got to say, I am here for it. Because what he did with Terrifier 2, he stepped up on everything and managed to get a $250,000 Indiegogo crowd-funded movie into theaters, and it managed to make $10 million in a very short amount of time. So not only has this movie done what it needs to as a movie, but on the business side of things, this was a huge deal for independent film. Not independent horror, just independent film in general. And for that, I've got to say both of those together makes this my favorite horror film of 2022. And those are my top 5 horror films of 2022. Like I said, there is another list where I will be including The Black Phone, for those wondering why I don't have it on this list. Tomorrow's list will be 5 movies I enjoyed that I think should have done better than what they did in the box office. And as always, if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. You like what you see, leave a thumbs up. Comment down below, what are your 5 favorite horror films you saw in theaters in 2022? But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching and tune in next time.